African countries with worse spot returns. Also coming up, shareholders of rural banks dissatisfied with the directive to halt payment of dividends due to the impact of domestic debt exchange program.
Any bank that has to pay dividends will have to write for approval from Bank of Ghana, which they have in that stream. So you could see the shareholders are really not very happy because they were expecting that as long as the bank has been able to make some kind of profit, they should be able to get their dividends, but it's not so.
And National Pensions Regulatory Authority takes steps to prosecute companies in the Ashanti region defaulting in payment of the employees' Tier 2 pension contributions.
I've started with the media houses, checking on them, like going on compliances, whether they do comply with the Pensions Act, they are contributing to the first year and the second year. Letters have been given to them, and we have series of institutions that we have given them demand notice, where they are coming to pay their contributions.
My name is Daryl. Kwawu. Thanks for being with us. Details coming up. And that was your look at the currency market. We begin from there because the Ghana Cedi ended the first half of this year with a better performance than the same period last year. According to Bloomberg, the Cedi lost about 11.21% to the US dollar, yet was still classified among African countries or currencies, rather, with worse spot returns. Here's more in this report.
The local currency in the last 3 months has performed well against the US dollar prior to the announcement of an International Monetary Fund program, and after the pronouncement of the program, the Cedi has kept its resilience against the American greenback. It has so far gained about 9% on the retail market since the announcement of the IMF program. However, some market watchers argue that it has benefited from the suspension of payments of principal and interest on external debt in December last year. Last week, there were reports that demand pressures for the American greenback eased, favoring the Cedi. This may continue this week, all things being equal. Meanwhile, the Nigerian naira is the worst African currency so far this year. According to Bloomberg, it has lost about 39% value to the dollar. It is followed by the Angola kwanza and the Egyptian pound with year-to-date losses of 38.8% and 20% respectively.
Now, shareholders of rural banks have expressed dissatisfaction at the directive of government to halt payment of dividends. The Bank of Ghana's directive is due to the current economic challenges and the impact of the domestic debt exchange program. Executive Director of the Association of Rural Banks, Comfort Owusu, reveals shareholders are reluctant to invest more due to the present order. Anaya Ojima has more in the following report.
In January this year, the central bank wrote to banks to suspend the declaration and payment of dividends and other distributions to shareholders. Banks hold more than 30% of the 83 billion cedis bonds that were swapped for new instruments. Arrangement under the domestic debt exchange program means that the lenders have suffered significant losses. Executive Director of the Association of Rural Banks, Comfort Owusu, explains measures are being taken to mitigate the negative impact of the debt exchange on the financial sector.
We still have some of our lockup funds not being paid, and the DDEP also has come with its own challenges. So that one is actually affecting the rural banks. We've done some, our banks, ARBFS Bank has done some submission to the Ministry of Finance for consideration so that we can get some funds to cushion the RCBs. So we are looking forward to get a positive response from the government.
In 2021, Amenfima Rural Bank paid over 2 million cedis to shareholders as dividends, representing a 30% return on investment, with each share attracting 6 pesos. This was after the expiration of a directive by the Bank of Ghana for deposit-taking institutions to halt payment of dividends in 2 financial years due to impact of COVID-19 pandemic. Though the bank's profit margins increased to 557 million from 401 million cedis in 2021, it is restrained from paying dividends to shareholders.
Any bank that has to pay dividends will have to write for approval from Bank of Ghana, which they have in that stream. So you could see the shareholders are really not very happy because they were expecting that as long as the bank has been able to make some kind of profit, they should be able to get their dividends. But it's not so. So it's not easy today for us. We are trying to calm them down for the fact that when things are good, they will have their dividends.
Board Chairman Dr. Tony Obin says though finances of shareholders will be affected, it is necessary in efforts to salvage the Ghanaian economy.
So we cannot go against government policy not to pay dividend. So if that will help the economy recover, why not? We know, and you saw the reaction of our shareholders. They were very disappointed. I thought they had heard it on air or read it in the papers, but most of them hadn't seen that, so they were very disappointed. Sometimes it's very discouraging. But I think we have also explained to them the rationale for non-payment. We pray hard that by next year we should be in a position to pay dividend.
For JoyNews, Nanaya Ochima reporting.
Now, GCB Bank PLC says is well prepared for any second round of domestic debt program. Now, according to the bank, although the program had an adverse impact on its operations, resulting in an impairment loss of 1.8 billion cedis during the period, it has factored its possibility in the balance sheet to avert any further losses. Speaking to Joy Business, Managing Director of GCB Bank, Kofi Admako said financial institutions are having talks with the Ministry of Finance and the Bank of Ghana to avert any adverse impact of the DDEP on the operations.
It's still unfolding, it's evolving, and so I'm sure you're talking about the cocoa bills. I'm sure you're talking about the euro bonds and the local. Yeah, it's on the drawing board, and it's being worked out. The banks and financial institutions are talking to the Bank of Ghana, are talking to the Ministry of Finance. It's understood. It was anticipated, and banks have taken recognition of that in their balance sheets. Okay, it may bring a little more impairment, obviously, but it's not a surprise. As unfortunate as it may be, it's still not a surprise. We anticipated a bit of this when we went through the first phase of the debt exchange program. Despite all of this, I am convinced, and my board is strongly behind me to pursue our strategic agenda, which is built on 3 key pillars. Okay, one of them, which has to do with revenue. Revenue growth is still on the agenda. Okay, so the future is very bright. Look, GCB has very strong fundamentals. We have a very strong branch network. We are rolling out technology to complement that. We have very seasoned staff. We have strong customer base and growing customer base. It's about optimizing and providing the right service quality, right products for our customers. That will see us through. We still are the leading bank in terms of revenue. We have to work on our costs. We have to work on impairments that we've all been talking about. But this bank is well positioned to succeed, and it's a very strong bank. I have no doubt that the future remains bright for GCB.
You're watching the marketplace. We're turning next to the financial markets, especially to the Treasury bills auction, and government missed its target by 17.8% last Friday as interest rates continue to rise. Here's more in this report.
The target for this auction was 2.913 billion cedis. It includes a sell buyback of about 1.014 billion cedis, which matures and will be rolled over on July 6. According to the results, about 1.906 billion cedis of the 91 DT bill, representing 79% of the total bids, were tendered. All of them were subsequently accepted. For the 182-day T-bill, 486.93 million cedis bids were tendered. Again, all the bids were accepted. Meanwhile, interest rates went up further as government struggled to mobilize funds from the Treasury market. The 91-day T-bill went up by 0.98% to 23.95%. That of the 182-day T-bill also shot up to 25.79% from 25.44% the previous week. Already, some analysts have indicated that interest rates will remain high till the end of the year. This is because of the high inflation rate.
Well, joining us on Zoom is Head of Trading at Republic Securities, Patrick Edem Agama. Good afternoon to you, Patrick. So what else do we need to know about Friday's auction?
All right, so good afternoon. So basically on Friday, it's good to know that based on the results, government was able to cover the maturing securities of about 1.7 billion, despite the shortfall being reported. Again, we've seen that most of the bids went in for the 91-day, which jumped by 98 basis points compared to the 182-day, which jumped by 35 basis points.
All right, I want us to turn to the stock market and talk a bit more about the stock market because we are entering the second half of this year. I want us to talk about the first half of this year and how trading has been so far.
Well, so far we can see that stocks like MTN, Benzo, Oil Palm, Total drove the market during the first half of the year. We've seen stocks like Farm Milk and some banking stocks losing greatly during the first half of the year. We expect this trend to continue until investors get confidence in the banking stocks. As we can see, even for today, we've seen Total rising based on the information on the dividend payment, and today being the ex-div date, investors are showing interest in Total, and they are hoping to be able to cash in on this particular dividend that will be paid by 7th July.
Yeah, because I was going to ask you about Total Energies and SG as well. What's happening with SG, because you expect share prices to rise?
Well, XG, we are seeing the demand mount for XG and that of Total as well. We've seen this in some stocks like XG and Car Bank, and even in MTN. We've seen that investors are actually showing interest, but there are no supplies on the market at the moment for those stocks. When demand increases more than supply, we expect the price to increase over time.
So what is the next half of this year looking like for stock trading?
Well, it depends on how the second quarter performance of the banks come out. You know, investors actually move the market using banking stocks, looking at the historic performance of the market. And now, based on the first quarter, investors showed some interest in banking stocks like CAL, XG, and Stanchart. So investors will be closely looking at how the second quarter performance of these banking stocks come out, and then also the budget will also affect the market in one way or the other.
All right. Before you leave, I just want you to give our audience a tip where to invest their monies this second half of the year.
I think we should look closely at stocks that pay dividends. It's good to know that most Ghanaian investors focus on dividend payments. So look at stocks that will pay dividends. We see some stocks like MTN that have in the past paid dividend twice in a year. So they can be able to pay interim dividends this year and pay the final the next year. So you can look towards dividend stocks, and that should be it. But in all, you should speak to your broker about your investment objectives.
All right, Patrick Edem Agama, Head of Trading, Republic Securities, thanks for making time. I know you have a busy day today. Now, the Kumasi Zonal Office of the National Pensions Regulatory Authority is set to prosecute institutions defaulting in payment of the mandatory Tier 2 pension contributions. Private educational institutions, private businesses, and media organizations top the chart of the non-payment of SNIT contributions. The authority says 26 companies in the Ashanti region have been found to be defaulting in their employees' Tier 2 pension contributions in the first quarter of this year. Here's more in this report.
The National Pensions Regulatory Authority has over the past years retrieved millions of cedis from companies defaulting in the payment of Tier 2 pension contributions under the SNIT scheme. In 2022, a total of 60 institutions in the Ashanti region were found culpable of non-payment of Tier 2 pensions. The authority bemoans the needy state of some retirees owing to companies' failure in making pension contributions on their behalf. Gideon Oseipoku is Corporate Affairs Officer at the Kumasi Zonal Office of the NPRA.
We have started with the media houses, checking on them, like going on compliances, whether they do comply with the Pensions Act, they are contributing to the first year and the second year. Letters have been given to them, and we have series of institutions that we have given them demand notice. So they are coming to pay their contributions. For the first and second quarter, they were able to visit over 30 institutions, and within that 30 institutions, almost half of them were not complying with the Pensions Act. They were having some gaps in their contributions for their employees, and even most, like a handful too, were not having second tier for their employees, like the second occupational pension scheme, which we have discussed with the trustees to chase them, register them, those who were not having, and also those who are having gaps too, they have started paying.
To educate the public on the need to secure a better retirement, the authority is embarking on a series of market activation programs. Informal sector workers at the Kejetia market in Kumasi have been targeted and sensitized to enroll on the Tier 3 voluntary pension scheme.
We interacting with the women today, they are really saying that it's only today that they have heard about MPRA, and it's only today that they have heard about the 3-tier pension scheme. So most of them are willing to join, and others too are just saying it's their first time.
For JoyNews, Mona Lisa Frimpong reporting.
We have some more news for you on the marketplace. The Managing Director of the Ghana Stock Exchange, Abna Amoah, is advocating a robust national policy that provides women in the corporate level with equal opportunities. According to her, women have a lot of intellect that would contribute to the growth of the organizations when given the opportunity. She was speaking at the Ghana Female CEO Summit in Accra.
The Ghana Female CEO Summit focused on the critical roles played by women and their contribution towards the growth of the economy. The summit was held under the theme, Resetting the Narrative, Ushering in a New Era of Influence. In an interview, Managing Director of Ghana Stock Exchange, Abna Amoah, said a national policy is needed to ensure diversification to enable women contribute their quota towards economic development.
It's important for corporates to establish policies that support equal access and opportunity for gender diversity along every section of the organizational structure. A board or a company that has a strategy that deliberately looks at how diverse its boardroom, its C-suite, its management level, the various roles are. It's been shown time and again that companies like that perform financially better than companies that have only one type of people in all leadership or in various roles. So diversity is very, very important. From a national perspective, I think it's also important for Ghana to look at gender diversity and inclusion rules or laws or framework that ensures that whether it's our parliament, whether it's in our executive, whether it's in our legislature, we are promoting and including and taking away the barriers that stop females and other minority groups from coming up and taking advantage of the opportunities in our country.
Board Chairman of Access Bank Ghana PLC, Amabawa, encouraged women to ensure that they are paid what they are due in any organization in which they find themselves.
It's our job to ensure that we are looking for parity in compensation by doing our homework and doing the research, right? So, for example, if I'm hired for a role, I should be able to benchmark that and find out what other people in similar roles are making, right? And if I'm made an offer, you should be able to also look at that offer vis-a-vis what is out there, in terms of benchmarking, and ask for more, ask for what you deserve, right? I was telling a story about how I asked for a sign-on bonus when I was, hired into one company. That company had never paid a sign-on bonus here in Ghana. But when I was, I started my role in US, in a bank there, I was given a sign-on bonus. That was my first experience with a sign-on bonus. So I had the audacity to ask for a sign-on bonus, right? And I argued and presented the facts to show that I deserved that sign-on bonus, and I was given it. So I believe that salary and compensation are confidential. So your male colleague will not necessarily tell you how much they are making, but do your homework and do the necessary benchmarking to be able to ensure that you are being placed in the right salary bracket.
The Ghana Female CEO Summit is an annual meeting organized by Glitz Africa.
Now, the United Nations Development Programme is making a case for the inclusion of more women as the rollout of the African Continental Free Trade Area takes shape. African economies such as Ghana are driven heavily by the informal sector, with women dominating that space. Speaking with Blaise Soga on Foreign Affairs, Ahuna Isiakonwa, Regional Director for the United Nations Development Programme, UNDP in Africa, said the continent is losing over $90 billion as a result of exclusion, hence the need for the continent to take advantage of the free trade area to promote inclusion.
And it's an existential issue for Africa, right? Because we're going nowhere unless we deal with the gender biases that we see on this continent, whether it's in the political sphere, the economic sphere, or the social sphere. Why is it important? It's important because it's not just in terms of the calculations, the rights issue. It's important because it's a rights issue. Every woman has a right to have equal access to what the other gender has. But it's also important in terms of economics. We did a study a few years ago that showed that Africa was losing close to $90 billion a year as a result of gender inequality, as a result of not empowering its women. This is serious. Yeah. I mean, if you think about it and the needs that we have today. So it's a win-win situation, right? And the case is made for promoting this. But there are lots of challenges around this, They exist in the realm of the social and cultural. People just not used to seeing women in leadership positions, for instance, and then not believing that a woman in a political leadership position can make changes and can do it, right? So we need to push and insist that women participate in political life, that they have opportunities to be elected, not just appointed, and that is a thing of cultural shift. And then we need to look at the economic sphere. Today we're talking about AFCFTA, right? If we make the face of AFCFTA feminine, I think we will get further, because who is doing the cross-border trades? Who are the market women that you see across the world? And when women are successful in their business, what happens? The rest of the social sectors benefit. A woman who is in business and is successful, the first thing they do, they invest in their children's education. They invest in their health. They invest in their nutrition. So it's really important to trigger support for women in all the spheres, political, economic, and social.
A key tool to spur on growth, as experts are pointing to, is the Continental Free Trade Area. And you were saying that we need to make it a bit more feminine. I'll get your explanation to that shortly. But even the policy itself is off to a slow-paced start. So we're seeing now what is a shadow form of the framework itself, the guided trade, which is happening amongst Ghana and 7 other countries. But looking at the Continental Free Trade Area itself, do you feel that the vision is feasible in the first place?
if the vision is feasible, absolutely. I mean, I think it's so for me so far is the best thing that's happened to Africa in the last decade, right? That there isn't an example that we know where a region, a continent, a country succeeded without somehow having some economic integration within that region, whether it's Europe, Asia, Latin America. That is a big factor in engendering prosperity.
All right, that was the Regional Director for UNDP Africa, Ahuna Ezeokonwa, speaking exclusively with Blaise Soga. That's the marketplace. Thanks for watching, everyone. There is more news on our website, myjoyonline.com/business. Our top story, they're building a business case for renewable energy in Ghana. You can read more about that article on our website. Plus, we are prepared for a second round of DDEP. That's according to GCB Bank. We brought you that story. You can read a little bit more on our website, myjoyonline.com/business. Plus, stay calm amidst suspension of FX licenses of 2 banks, ACI to the public. That's the marketplace. My name is Daryl. Thanks for watching. We will be back same time tomorrow.